Oh do 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 boo do do boo ba do boo da ba da ba do boo ba do ba da boo ba do boo boo do 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 a do. Hello everyone, my name is Stonesy Boy and welcome back to Reading with Stonesy. Today we are reading chapters 24 to 27. My apologies, not chapter 21. That was a while ago. But yes, today we are reading chapters 24 to 27, pages 100 to 157, and if you are pretty bad at math like I am, it is 17 pages or 3 chapters? Now, how the heck, now you might be asking, reading Stonesy here, how the heck are we reading 3 chapters but only 17 pages? Because this, my friend, my little friend who likes to listen to me read, is what we call a short episode. So, snapping my fingers like that. You know, it's like when you eat good food and you go, but you know, you gotta add the snap and then it's sassy. What was I? Oh yeah. Without further ado, let's begin by reading Chapter 24. Alerted by the possibility of booby traps, Bobby decided not to return to the narrow storied bridge. Instead, she used up her inventory of dirt blocks to create a parallel path. Johnny followed close behind when Ben now bringing up the rear. As they drew closer, the weeping of the obsidian blocks became more obvious. They became more eerie. It gave the entire fortress an otherworldly quality, almost as if the place were alive and full of sorrow. The various bridges crisscrossing the lava all met with a small path of stone and a base of fortress. Peggy's front yard was barren and gray, just featureless cobblestone courtyard set to be before the purplish red door. As the door creaked open, Bobby and Ben stood suddenly at attention. Bobby pulled out her shield. She had no idea what to expect, but the old woman who prepared to open the doorway didn't seem at all threatening. Pigstep Peggy was a gray-haired woman with a craggy smile. She didn't look like an adventurer. In fact, Bobby noticed she dressed much like a farmer, with brown overalls and a wide-brimmed woven hat. She had weapons on her. They were stashed away from an inventory where Bobby couldn't see them. In short, despite the tremendously imposing black and purple structure that loomed over their heads, and lava bubbling ominously below them, Bobby felt immediately at ease when she laid eyes on Peggy. Finally, there's someone who didn't want to spoil the fight. "Hello, my dears," said Peggy. "A long way from the path, aren't you? You must be lost." "I don't think so," said Ben. "We're looking for Pigstep Peggy. That's you, right?" Her eyes narrowed. "Where'd you hear that name?" Bobby stepped forward, putting herself between them. "We heard stories of a great adventurer, a hero, and we were hoping to meet her." "Sorry to disappoint you," said Peggy. "I'm just an old woman. I value my privacy, so if you don't mind," Bobby opened her mouth to protest. At the very least, this woman needed to be warned about Logan, when, suddenly, a flash of blue appeared in the peripheral vision. Layla included extending an apple. "Well, look at that," said Peggy. "I've seen a lot of my deer, but that is something new." She opened the door wider and gave Bobby and Ben a closer look, and for the first time her eyes landed on Johnny. "That's new, too. Who, Pumpkin? Have you taken a zombie as a pet?" "Not a pet," answered Bobby. "A brother." The woman seemed confused by that. She looked at Bobby and Johnny back again. "Is that so?" the woman said. And Bobby wanted it to sound more confusing, that Bobby's brother was a zombie or a villager. After a moment, she tutted. "Well, you must come in and tell me all about it, but call me Peg. I'm afraid my pig-stepping days are behind me. Old joints, you know." Bobby flashed a smile at Ben. This was the warmest welcome they had since their travels had begun. But Ben appeared confused. "Pig-stepping? What does that even mean? You don't know how to pig-step, eh?" Peg grinned. "Seems I might have a thing or two to teach you after all." The interior of Peg's home was cozy, and exterior was fearsome. The weeping obsidian was only an outermost layer. Inside, the walls were made of vibrant dark wood that was brightened with plentiful artworks. And the windows let in a great deal of light. Bobby realized the lava would provide light even in the dead of night. Glittering crystal was a type Bobby couldn't recognize, adorned nearly every surface. Peggy noticed Bobby's interest. "Pretty, isn't it, dear?" "That's quartz. It's a quite fondness for it." "A quartz, crafted from another quartz ore, I bet," said Ben. "But plus, weeping obsidian, that's the ender pearl on the bookshelf." Ben whistled, impressed. "I'm sensing a theme." "What?" asked Bobby. "I don't know what you mean." Ben was turning to their host. "I'm guessing Peg has spent time in the nether." Peg chuckled. "It's quite a lot of times," she said. Bobby thought it sounded almost wistful, as if Peg wished she were in the nether at this very moment. "I've heard of it," said Bobby. "It's another dimension, right?" "Even if I've never been there," said Ben. Logan told me I would in the last 5 minutes." Logan, hearing the name, reminded Bobby of the urgency in their mission. Logan might already be on their way there. "Nether is a strange place," said Peg. "Wild and dangerous, but it's like any place, there are rules, patterns. Once you know them, it's not so strange, not so very dangerous." "I'd love to hear all about it," said Bobby. "But there's a reason we're here. We came to warn you." "Warn me, dear?" said Peg. "Whatever about?" "An army of the undead," answered Bobby, "and they're being led this way by a bitter bully named Logan." "Oh my," said Peg. The overlords have already fallen, Ben added. Their home was destroyed and their team was scattered. Oh my, how sad for them, Peggy looked at her hand. Always a pity when young people get in over their heads. But you don't need to worry about me, dears. Old Peg can take care of herself. Ben and Bobby shared a look. Peg wasn't taking this near serious enough. In the silence, they heard a muffled sound coming from nearby. What was that? Asked Bobby. What was what? Peg said lightly. It's coming from that door, said Ben. Someone else here? The door leads to my cellar, Peg said, not answering the question. Logan might be here already, said Bobby. He travels underground with his army. If they're coming up through the basement. It sort of sounded like a zombie, said Ben. Pish posh, said Peg. You already heard your brother over there, grunting through the pumpkin head. If you haven't told me that story. Peg led in bed and Bobby to the table with chairs in the opposite direction of the cell door. Peg's alarms and traps are aplenty, and that weeping obsidian isn't just for looks, you know. It's pretty sturdy enough to keep out the wanted guests, so relax. Make yourself comfortable, dears, while I put on some stew. How do you like your mushrooms? Your Peg is a vegetarian, did you know? Bobby thought better of arguing with their host, but Johnny, left behind in the front room, never took his eyes off the cellar door. Chapter 25. Peg invited them to spend the night. Bobby agreed happily, but Ben was reluctant. There was something off about her, he whispered when Peg's back was turned. Ben, please, whispered Bobby. I haven't slept in a week, and I've been spending my nights in underground hidey holes a few blocks away from a horde of the undead. If there's any extra bed here, I want it. Ben sounded he couldn't argue with that, and even some time since he slept too. They clearly needed more time to convince Peg that Logan was a real threat to her. Is it possible you met Logan? He asked her. He attacked the overlords because they wouldn't let him join them. Does he have some personal vendetta against you? Oh, anything's possible, said Peg, smiling in the quiet amusement. One does make enemies of the hero business, but I tried not to leave any of mine alive. Cake? Peg had a freshly baked cake. I'm good, said Ben. Bobby shrugged. I'd have some cake. That a girl, said Peg. She sat across from them. Now, I do tend to get young adventurers dropping in on me time and time. They asked their apprentice with me. They wanted me to train them and give them some special insight of adventurer's life. Peg shook her head. I turned them away, every one. I'm not looking for a sidekick. Ben looked over Bobby, who nodded. That fits, Ben said. Logan wants to punish everyone who ever rejected him. He must have turned him down at some point. Congratulations on being an excellent judge of character, said Bobby. It's clear you two have some things you could teach me, said Peg. How do you keep a zombie from attacking you? Ben didn't really know how she called Johnny the zombie. Bobby told you already. Johnny's her brother. He meant that literally then, said Peg. That only piques my curiosity all the more. Short answer is, it took a lot of training, said Bobby, with a mouthful of cake, and he still sometimes tries to attack if he's overstimulated. He hates the helmet, but it keeps him from biting. He also likes gnawing on a bone. Charming, said Peg. It's a subtle, but Ben was certain that caught her eyes drift back to the cellar door, and she heard a low rumbling sound. What was that? Ben asked. Oh my, said Peggy. She put her hands on her stomach. I guess I shouldn't be eating all that cake. Your Peg has a hard time with gluten, if I didn't mention it. Ben narrowed his eyes with suspicion. I didn't notice you eating any of the cake. Anyway, it's getting late, said Peg. And Ben began to protest. She added, us older folk need to turn in early. I ask you to respect that. Come on. I'll show you to your rooms. If you're sure, Ben said to Bobby. I'm sure, said Bobby. We'll talk more about Logan in the morning. Maybe formulate a plan. Whatever you say, dear, said Peg, and she picked up a nearby lantern. Is sure everything will seem less dire in the morning. Ben was shown to a tiny guest room. Nothing but a bed, chest, and a stone furnace, with a one-block window was too high to provide a good view. Logan might have been a top-tier jerk, but at least his creepy castle had included formidable bedrooms. But not Ben was in the mood to get comfortable. Bobby may have fallen for Pigstep Peggy's kindly grandmother routine, but Ben wasn't buying it. Not for a second. Through a tiny window, Ben could see a bit of the sky, just past the rim of the volcano. When she mooned past, he could know the middle of the night. He said he'd wait until he could enact his plan. He hoped Peggy was a heavy sleeper. Chapter 26. Bobby awoke to feeling something was strong. It was still night. A beam of moonlight shone from the bedroom's single small window. Both for a full night's sleep, Bobby tried to clear the fog from her mind. What was wrong? Why had she started awake? The answers came in a rush. Johnny was missing, and Pigstep Peg was sitting at the foot of her bed. Bobby started quickly. Where's Johnny? She asked. What had happened? Calm yourself, dear, said Peg. I brought you some milk and cookies. Bobby's mind went slow to wake. What? I don't want cookies. Did Johnny get out? Is he alright? Johnny's quite safe, I promise, Peg chuckled. I carved pumpkin does make him easier to manage, doesn't it? I was able to handle him without a great deal of fuss. You didn't hurt him, said Bobby. If you did, I told you he's safe, but you love him, don't you? The biggest sister should. That's very good, Peg smiled and nodded. Ben will take care of him. You trust Ben, is that right? You took Johnny to Ben's room? Why? Well, that's because I need your help, dear. And where you're going, your brother might not be safe. Not like with us with your pen. Ben gestured to Bobby to stand. Up now, up and at him. We've got an adventure to go on. We'll be back before you know it. Bobby rose wearily on her feet. I thought you didn't want a sidekick. I don't, said Peg, but an adventurer who can tame zombies and befriend blue spirits? You're something special, dear. Any adventurer will tell you. Peg leaned in close. Always use a right tool for the job. Peg led Bobby down a winding path of her fortress. It felt bigger than the inside of the house and the outside. Within seconds, Bobby was completely turned around. He wouldn't have been able to find Ben's room now if she tried. It's about Is this about an adventure we should really get? Ben, I'm new to all this. Ben taught me everything I know about combat. Peg chuckled her tongue. It isn't combat I need help with. It's adventures like Ben with an emerald dozen. If you met those hoity-toity overlords, you know that's the truth. Ben's different, Bobby said quickly, but I know what you mean by the overlords and adventures like them. I grew up in a village, and adventurers would storm through and take whatever they wanted. They treated my friends and neighbors like they didn't matter. All in the pursuit of glory and gold, experience and excitement, Peg nodded. I know the type. I was a different sort of adventure. I wanted to understand the world. I wanted to forge connections, so no. I'm not asking you to help providing. As more non-combat skills, I'm hoping you help. Ah, here we are. Peg turned the corner of the hallway, opened up to a tall ceiling chamber lined with armor stands, crafting stations, and chests. It looked like a war room, and the center was a single structure. Although it wasn't activated, Bobby immediately recognized the upright black ring and what it was. Another portal, breathed Bobby. That's right, said Peg. Let's find you some new armor, shall we? The nether was hot this time of year, Peg grinned darkly. And of course, it could be very, very dangerous. Bobby knew that already. Everything she heard of the nether made it sound like a perilous hellscape. But at least Peg had got first-hand experience. Peg outfitted her with a dark gray chestplate, golden helm with iron boots, and it appeared almost purple in the lantern light. Peg wore herself gold head to toe. Nice look, isn't it? She asked. For a while, I used to call myself Gold-Plated Peg, but of course, Pigstep Peggy was the name that was stuck. What about weapons? Asked Bobby. Bring whatever you like. I'll do my best to keep us out of any combat situation. Peg tutted and shook her head. When you want to be my age, you begin to find violence somewhat distasteful. I agree with your theory, said Bobby, but if a sword is up for grabs, I'm not going to turn it down. Good eye. That's the best sword I got, said Peg. You've got an inner fire in you, girl. You must fit it right in. Where we're going. Oh, and speaking of fire, Peg produced a flint and steel, holding it near inner portal. She stacked them together, producing a spark. A spark that flared into a flame that activated a portal which ignited a burst of glittering purple light. Even knowing the danger was represented, Bobby thought it was beautiful. Peg seemed to know what she was thinking. Pretty right, she said. Don't trust it. Pretty purple light was lured many adventurers to their doom. Bobby leaned in closer. The purple shimmered like a ghost of a gem. The surface of the sea, which Bobby had only seen for the first time. Her world had been so small before the zombie siege changed everything. Since then, she's seen dozens of items, traveled one end of the overworld to another, and now, would she travel beyond the overworld? Peggy giggled like a little girl. Go on, dear. After you. And the woman firmly pushed her forward, face first in the shimmering purple sheen. Bobby closed her eyes. They opened them to a whole new world. Chapter 27. When the moon rose to the volcano, Ben had knocked on his plan. It wasn't a very evolved one, but Ben found the best plan to be simple. Step 1. Sneak out of this room. Step 2. Think about finding Bobby and waking her up. Step 3. Remember that Bobby's been exhausted and Johnny would be with her, and Johnny was not suited for stealth missions. Step 4. Decided to do this one on his own. Peg's fort was big, and its twisting hallway seemed almost purposely disorienting, but Ben had spent enough time digging around underground to develop a keen sense for direction, even without the benefit of the moon's center compass. He retracted the steps he had taken when she led him to his room. He found a staircase to the ground floor, and peeking around the corner found a little kitchen area empty. There was no torches or lanterns lit, but the orange glow of the lava streamed through the windows, providing enough light to be seen by. Still, it was dim enough to be eerie. There was something sinister, even villainous, about relying on lava lighting. Ben found it simply didn't trust Peg. Maybe Bobby's hero skepticism was rubbing off on him. The overworld overlords hadn't exactly lived up to expectation, and Logan, of course, had been a tremendous disappointment. Why should he expect Peggy to be any different? There was an easy way to learn whether Peg was trustworthy: snooping. In particular, Ben felt he needed to know what Peg was hiding in her basement. It sounded like something was alive down there. Did she have a prisoner? What if Logan was already attacked and Peg had won? It would explain why she was so unconcerned. Or maybe she kept a count on them for milk and sheep for wool, like a little indoor farm, safely tucked away in the lava in a rid. A rocky platform that passed for a lawn. Ben wasn't certain for the basement's secret and the sinister one, but she knew he kept something down there, far away from prying eyes. Whatever he was hiding, Ben could know soon enough. He crept through the simple kitchen and into the entrance hall, where the nether quartz glittered in the lava glow, where she was the lone door that led to the basement. Ben was determined to be stealthy. He reminded himself not to make a sound, but when Ben opened the cellar door, he saw Peggy's horrible secret for himself. All his plans were forgotten. Ben opened his mouth, and he screamed. What did he scream at? We'll find out next time. What a cliffhanger. Pigstep Peggy, this old woman living on the middle of a volcano, and she has a deep, dark, sinister, terrifying, and secret, spooky, and scary little secret that she's hiding. And we don't know what it is, really. We won't know until, well, next time. But of course, we first need to do two things, the first of which being our understanding and putting down for our list. So today we read pages 140 to 157. Next time we are going to be reading pages 151 or 158 to, if my mouse would like to work, 158 to 181. And, of course, today we read chapters 24 to 27, which means next time we are reading chapters 28 to 32. 4 chapters instead of 3 like today, except it's going to be 23 pages. But, of course, with that being the first thing done, we need to get to our second thing. So, without further ado, let's get to the Stonseys Learning Corner of the day. Doing it like Stonseys way, bop. Today we are learning about the dog breed titled the Pointer. Now, look at this little dog. You might know this dog from a few memes. For example, that one meme where he's looking out and it's from the pepperoni ad. You know the one. But let's now learn about this cute little dog called the Pointer. We first need to learn about its history. Now, the history, or the earliest pointers were used in the 17th century, not to point birds, but to point hare, which of coursing, or bunnies, which coursing greyhounds were unleashing to pursue. When ring shooting became popular in the 18th century, the pointer found its place in an adept bird locator. The ideal dog would find game, indicate its location, and remain still until the hunter would find a ready shoot. The task is somewhat slow in the old flintlock guns. The early pointer, probably included in its genetic makeup, found some most talented breed in existence: greyhounds, foxhounds, and bloodhounds, as well as an old type of setting spaniel. Different countries developed different pointer breeds. After the War of the Spanish Succession in 1713, British Army officers returned home to the heavy-boned Spanish pointers. They were later crossed with Italian pointers to produce the modern pointer. Pointers became popular in the recreational hunting of the large estates. Ideally, 2 pointers were used so that a hunter would locate a bird precisely by cross-referencing the dog's points. When dog shows became in vogue in the late 19th century, pointers were among the most prominent in the breed shown. In fact, the Westminster Kennel Club was organized primarily for pointers. Pointers remained very popular in the competitive field of trial dogs and recreational hunters. However, they were not popular as pets as many of the sporting breeds. Now, let's say you want to own one of these historic little dogs like that one. Look at that one with the white background. He's so good. And the other one's in the green field. Looks like it's in Iceland, even though it's green and should be called Greenland, but that's besides the point. They're both such good little hunting dogs. But of course, you're going to want to know the temperament before you get this little silly dog. Well, the temperament of the pointer is a true, wide-ranging hunter, which means that it not only is an excellent bird dog, but also has the stamina to run for hours. Consequently, it needs a lot of exercise or it can become frustrated or destructive, because if it's ever on the lookout for birds, it is easily distracted from everyday matters. But it's nearly impossible to distract one once on point. It's gentle and sweet, but it may be too energetic and boisterous at time for very small children. Like many sporting breeds, it can be found in the field or show types. The field type is generally smaller, perhaps more active. Now, you know what this dog is, you want to own it, but of course, before you go do this purchase, your fantastic and smart mom stops you and goes, "Honey, what about the upkeep for these animals? We've learned about their temperaments. What about their upkeep?" Well, to you mothers out there, the upkeep of these funny little dogs is very simple. They need exercise, and lots of it. It needs at least an hour of exertion every day, and it's best when its regular opportunity is to hunt. It also enjoys running and searching for the wilds and long jaunts of field. At home, it needs space to exercise outdoors and should not be expected to sit inside all day. The pointer can live outdoors in temperament of warm climates, such as long given a soft bed and warm shelter. It needs canine or human companionship, however, and does far better when allowed to spend time with its family. It requires only occasional brushing to remove dead hair. So, the good sides, upsides is you don't need to brush them a lot. They rarely shed, but the downsides is you better be really into exercise. So all my gym nerds and, what are you? Sigma alpha males? This dog's for you. Now, of course, now we get to the scary stuff. The health. Its major concerns are entropion, and minor concerns are CHD, hyperthyroidism, and it occasionally has cataract problems and deafness. Suggested tests are hip, eye, and thyroids. Those are the places you should get this dog tested at all times. Its lifespan can be up to 12 to 15 years. And a note to know about it is it's prone to tail tip injuries. Basically, it's known to lie about injuries for attention or, to actually show them. Hard to say. Now, the form and function of these cute little pointer dogs is the pointer combines athletic grace and the power of the lean, muscular body, noble head, alert expression, and noble carriage. The gait is smooth and powerful, the head and the health high, and the nostrils wide, enable it to cover a lot of ground while searching for airborne scents. The tail lashes from side to side when the dog gates. The pointer clothes coat is short and dense, giving them a streamlined appearance. Field-type pointers tend to hold their tails upright when on point. Basically, if you see this dog's tail going up, kind of similar to the dog in the nice grass field, it usually means it's seeing something, smelling something, or, Now, these dogs have a 4 in energy level, exercise requirements, playfulness, affection level, a friendliness towards dogs, friendliness towards other pets. They have a 3 for friendliness towards strangers, so they might not be your best friend if they don't know them. They have a 3 in ease of training, so they might be a little difficult, but not the worst. They have a 4 in watchdog ability, so they are a very good watchdog. That little tail thing might be a fantastic indicator. They have a 3 in protection ability. Like I said, these dogs are more pointers, not necessarily hunters, but they are good for having when you're hunter. They only have a 1 in grooming requirements, which is fantastic for dogs, because, grooming them all the time might be a little bad. I think they forget to mention that these dogs have a little claws, and those need to be cut a long time, but, I think that's just a thing for all dogs. They have a 3 in both cold tolerance and hot tolerance, so I think that's more of a little mid-range of, get them a little coat or a little smoothie when it gets too hot or too cold. The weight of a male is 55 to 75 pounds, and a female is 45 to 65 pounds. The height of a male is 25 to 28 inches, and a female is 23 to 26. So I think the females are more built for protecting in round areas, and the males are more for outside exercise by the seam of their build. Well, that's that dog for the day. And the next dog we're going to be learning is actually a dog I have sitting only a couple feet away from me. And it's the thing you're going to learn about in the next episode. So I hope you get a super fantastic, wonderful day. Be polite. Be efficient. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Do you guys hate it when I end these episodes off by not telling you what's the next dog to learn? Well, you'll learn next time. So I hope you guys have a super fantastic, wonderful day. And I'll see you guys next time. Next time. Bye-bye.